Hey everyone, this is FrSkyStve. I do welcome you back to the channel. This is an ongoing series called the Down and Dirty series where we talk about setting up a plane as quickly as possible with as little fluff as possible. And you're looking at both the E-flite mall and the full-scale version of the mall. And you missed the promotion most likely. There was, if you buy the E-flite mall, you get the real full-scale mall for free. Too bad you missed it. I think everyone I knew took part in that promotion. We all have full scale malls. Okay, so we're going to be talking once again about flaps today because there's stuff that we did not cover. And I am going to take you to this thing right here, back to the flaps. And you can see this time I populated with some numbers. So the slow up and slow down, you see this big number, 6.8 seconds, and it was about a little under a second. You can see the flaps right now are fully deployed and they retract pretty quickly. Now, when I press the button, I've got them so they go nice and slow down. And why do we want that? Pretty much when you are flying a plane, if you don't set this up, these flaps are going to come down to whatever you set them at very quickly. And that can be kind of jarring, especially if you want to have a nice smooth transition between flaps coming down and flaps being up. So when you are having your landing, you probably want the flaps to come down so slowly so it gives the plane a chance to kind of slow down and get used to the entire flaps being put down in the first place. That's what slow up and slow down does. Now, in this particular example, slow up is the larger number because it's taking its time coming down, and slow down is how fast it retracts. It might be different depending how you set it up, so what you have to do is make sure that you test it out with your actual model. Just when you set this up, just watch your plane to make sure you see the flaps deployed the way you want them to. It's a nice way to get stuff done. Now, this is a little bit too much time to have the flaps come down. We'll fix that later on. The next thing I want to talk about is when you put the flaps down, one of the issues you're going to have is the notion that as the flaps come down, the nose will go up. This is called ballooning, and this is not what you want to have as you're coming in for a landing. Typically, if you're about 10 seconds out, you want to look all pro and put your flaps down, and then what happens is instead of your plane losing altitude, it will start to gain altitude. And it's really common, this whole ballooning concept, and we're going to fix that. The way we do it is to mix in some elevator. So when the flaps come down, you also want the elevator to come down, but you don't want it to come down very much because a little bit of down elevator goes a long way. So you got to be really conservative with it. However, in our example, we're going to grossly mix in elevator so you can graphically see what I'm about to show you. So first thing is we hit the plus button. We're going to jump into flaps elevator, and that's right there. We're going to put it in the last position. This is how we mix it. And by default, it's set up at 10%. We're going to mix it to 110%. Now, the other thing we have to do is we have to put an input in. And everybody does the same thing. Well, I have to mix in, I want to have this mix in with my flaps. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this, hit switch A, because that is the switch I use to bring my flaps down. And let's take a look at what happens. We're going to go to outputs. So we're going to be watching this right here. This is the flaps, the elevator coming down. And you can see, especially this next one, when I use this, I bring the elevator down. Watch how fast the elevator goes. And then the flaps are still being retracted. So what happens is the elevator comes down. It's coming down faster than the flaps come down, and because of that, instead of being mixed in properly, you're probably going to be crashing your plane, or at least it's going to give you a fright if you can Hopefully you have quick nerves so you can fix it. So this is absolutely the wrong thing to do. You do not want to use your switch to deploy this. What you want is you want something that would mimic the travel of the flaps. So we're going to go back to the mixes, and once again, we're going to go to this flap elevator mix, long press on it to get into it. Instead of using the input of the switches, we're going to actually go down to channels, and we're going to go to a flap channel. Now we'll go back to it once again on the outputs and watch this. You can see that it looks like it's mimicking everything. You can see the elevator and the flaps are going the same speed. Now when it comes to the slow version of it, you see they follow each other precisely. Now that we've got that set up the way that it should work, and that's a really good way to see how everything works, we're going to do a couple things to tidy up everything. Number one, we're going to go into edit, and we are going to change this 110% back to 10%. And why such a small number? A little bit of flap down elevator goes a long way. You want to start off with this, and then I would take the plane about 3 mistakes high, put the flaps down, see if it balloons up. If it's still ballooning up, you might want to give it a little bit more down elevator by maybe, well, we don't want to do that much down elevator. We want to do it maybe about 12%. So you take it up to about, well, let's see. Here we go. Good. Take it up to about 12%. And then you might, if that is still ballooning, you might want to take it up to about 15%. And that's how I would approach it, just mixing it in like that. The last thing I would do is I would go into flaps, and the 6.8 seconds, I would take it down to about 3.5 seconds. And what you'll see is that that's the full time it takes for the flaps to get deployed, and they come up very quickly. And with that, you have everything set up. If you want to see what it looks like in the output menu, this is what it looks like. You can see that it does follow it, but it's, you know, it's about 10% of whatever this travel is, and that's where you want to be. With that, I do thank you for watching, and please stay tuned to the next episode.